Thank you, councillors and staff members and members of the public. Thank you very much for attending. I'll declare this meeting open and would like to acknowledge that we're on Wadandi Noongar land and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. We also have the youth mayor with us, Michaela. Thank you for coming, and former councillor Todd Brown with us as well. Thank you for coming. Councillors, we also have received a petition for a special meeting of electors to be held on the 7th of November as the date that's done, so that is now locked in. And our illustrious minute taker is also getting married. So congratulations to Liam and taking some leave from us. So thank you. Well done, Liam. Councillors, we have a recommendation here from Councillor Andrew to participate via phone. We're just trying to get hold of him again. While we're doing that, is somebody happy to move that we accept this? Thank you, Councillor McGeary. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Giles. All those in favour, please indicate. Yeah, we'll just make sure of that when he gets him online, but we do have the location there.
Hello. Yes? Okay, all good? Yeah, no, it's a good conversation. Here we go.
Councillor Andrew, are you there?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Andrew. And you've been approved to participate.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, announcements from myself, which I've already made, so we can skip past that one. Thank you, minute taker. And we are all here. Are there any declarations of interest, councillors? Thank you. We do have some public questions from Mr. Ryan Flay. I just spoke to Ryan a minute ago. Ryan, would you like to come to the podium for us? I think we do have your questions up here, if you're happy to read those. Thank you, Ryan.
So just the first question was if we, Marine Park. If the council would be interested or help put in a marine park for the Bunbury region from, say, Peppermint Grove in the south up to Spinning Up in the north. At the moment, the state government's pushing the plan for our parks between 2019 and 2024, 5 million hectares of marine reserves. And at the moment, when you do look on the map, which I'll provide later, everything but that area is maintained. And it's not to stop development, but it's just to hold what pristine environment we have down here on the element of conservation, so that if development does get approved, like we had the backwash ocean pool, and then now also the artificial surf reef, two big coastal marine developments that do have large impacts, and both of them seem to be going pretty much full steam ahead. So, yeah.
Good. And question 2 while you're there, Ryan, and we'll get a response for you from there.
Number 2 was just also in the element of preserving nature-based coastal towns, coastal strip. We have some operators along the back beach who use petrol power generators. Something simple. We have the technology to have reduced decibels, or even if we could plug into mains power or some sort of alternative power other than wafting marshmallows while you're trying to enjoy the beach.
Thanks, Mr. Flay. You grab a seat, and I'll just ask the CEO for responses for those. And as mentioned, these responses will then form part of the minutes for this agenda. Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to Marine Park, as Mr. Flay has identified, they are introduced by the state government. The city does play a part in the Perrin Naturalist Partnership project, and maybe that's a good team for us to sound this idea out. If there was a proposal for a marine park, to understand the rules and regulations around that prior to the city probably considering, or prior to council considering it would be appropriate, but doesn't mean we can't advocate for some form of protection in the coastal area. So we'll probably have to just leave that one for the moment, Mr. Flay, through you, Mr. Mayor, and bring some more information back. Probably have a conversation with Mr. Flay offline as well. In regards to the coastal zone and those other impacts, at the moment there aren't a lot of other opportunities for those business operators other than to bring their generators. I think as we look at redeveloping certain parts of our foreshore, similar to what we've just done down at Coolanbiddy Woola, we'd probably look to provide, where possible, some access to mains power for those type of vehicles to be serviced by mains power rather than using generators. But I know it's not always easy. If you have a large number for an event, we may still need to have portable generation facilities. But certainly take it on notice and look at where we might be doing redevelopments to provide that capacity where possible.
Thank you for your questions, Mr. Flay. On to item 7.11, the minutes for the previous meeting. Somebody happy to move those? Thank you, Councillor Quain. A seconder? Councillor Yip, thank you. I'll put that. All those in favour? Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And we also have the minutes from the advisory committee there, the Policy Review and Development Committee. Somebody happy to move those minutes be noted? Thank you, Councillor Kozisek. Councillor Quain, you're seconding. Councillor Steele, do you have a question?
I do, because we had something given to us tonight which was changed what we voted on, which was the professional. I know there's been a correction to it.
Yep.
But that isn't what the actual committee voted on. So I'm just wondering how that can change, and obviously that shouldn't be part of our minutes.
CEO?
I'm sorry, I don't have all the documentation in front of me. So, Lou, can you go, that's an agenda item now? Yeah. So, I believe... So an email was sent out seeking the acceptance of the committee members of putting that addition back in. So if it is actually in the minutes, obviously you're correct, Councillor, the minutes can't be adjusted without the blessing of the committee or the committee members. And I believe in the agenda, is that the actual agenda item then?
Yes.
So within the...
We only adjusted the policy.
Pardon?
Which only been adjusted in the policy that's coming down.
It's only been adjusted. Yes, so, yeah, okay. So the council is to determine the policy tonight, following the recommendation from the committee. We have looked to adjust the policy by adding that point back into the policy that's before council for its consideration.
Satisfied, Councillor Steele?
No, but I'll bring it up during the actual next agenda item.
Sure. We have a mover and a second on that. Those who are happy to accept and note the minutes, all in favour? Councillor Andrew?
So what was the question?
That the minutes of the Policy Review and Development Committee be accepted.
Yes.
Yes. And those against? And one against. Two against, Councillor McCleary. Two against. That's carried. Thank you. So, councillors, we do have two deputations tonight. Those who approve on item 10.1.1 for Judith Urath to speak, please indicate. Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
That's carried. And for Michaela Kerwin to speak on item 10.1.4, those in favour? Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
That's carried. So as we get to these items, we'll call you up. Thank you very much. Councillors, coming out for discussion this evening. We have 10.1.1, 10.1.3, 10.1.4, and that's all at this stage. The urgent business will come out, and of course the confidential item will come out as well. Any other items? Councillor Steele?
10.3.2.
10.3.2. Any further, councillors? If that's the case, somebody happy to move the balance are carried en bloc? Thank you, Councillor Steck. A seconder to that. Thank you, Councillor Quain. All those in favour, please indicate. Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 10.1.1, and I'll ask Judith. Sorry. Certainly, Councillor Smith, thank you. You're right there, Judith, yeah. Just excused herself. Oh, well, good, thank you, Judith. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, but I only need two, I think. Bunbury City Council meeting of the 18th of 10th, 22, agenda item 10.1.1. Proposal to review council policy to remove first option for commercial tenancy lease for renewal of a 5-year lease, which was council's normal practice in alignment with the Commercial Tenancy Retail Shops Agreements Act 1985, Clause 12C. Your new proposal tries to remove this clause from council's existing policy, causing Bunbury City Council to act contrary to the the 1985 Act. Bunbury City Council is already in trouble for an action which has opened the door for legal prosecution to be initiated and compensation to be awarded to the previous tenants of Kumbana Bay Kiosk, the Hello Summer Beach Kiosk. Bunbury City Council illegally forced out the Hello Summer Beach Kiosk tenants by only offering them...
Councillor, sorry, Judith, can you keep your comments to this item, please? And you need to ensure what you're saying is correct.
It is. The tenants were only offered...
Judith, I'll ask you again, just make sure you have your comments on this item that we're dealing with right now, please. So just making sure your comments are on the item we're dealing with right now.
The item is the removal of the provision for renewal of lease. This is the statement that leads to the renewal.
Yes, and the example you're talking about are not relevant to this situation.
Right. The State Administrative Tribunal says that enforcement of hours by landlord or committee to a tenant is an offence under the Tenancy Act, and the tenant can seek compensation through the tribunal. By breaching the 1985 Tenancy Act Clause 12C with current tenants, now former tenants, the council can now be prosecuted.
Judith, I'm going to ask you, Judith, to please, if you could please bring your discussion back to this item.
This item is an illegal action according to the Tenancy Act. How do I write it? The Commercial Tenancy Retail Shops Agreements Act of 1985, Clause 12C. I urge council to reconsider carefully the proposed changes to Bunbury City Council policy items, and as a ratepayer, I'd like an explanation and answers to the questions I now can't ask. I believe your ratepayers and your commercial tenants deserve better from this council. I believe that some of our commercial tenants have been treated unfairly and improperly by council. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Councillors dealing with this item. Councillor Kozisek.
I would like to move that we defer this particular item, 10.1.1, back to the Policy and Review Committee at the earliest.
Sure.
Thank you.
Is there a seconder to that? Councillor McCleary? It's a, yep,
Point of order,
yeah,
question.
sure.
Point of order. It was mentioned last week that it needed to be tabled before it could be deferred. Is that correct?
Now, so deferral goes before it's actually tabled, Councillor Plum. So because it's deferral, it's a procedural motion, which means there's a deferral motion there, which means we now deal with the deferral, so the mover of that can speak. There's seconder doesn't speak and there's no speaking against and we vote on it. So Councillor Kozisek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I apologise for my voice. I hope it doesn't leave me completely. This particular commercial leases policy, the day that we had the committee meeting, it was a very busy meeting and we all felt very rushed. And I think we all felt that it hadn't been dealt with completely and properly and have given consideration since and would like to review it again. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I'll put the motion to defer to the next Policy Review and Development Committee. Those in favour? Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
Those against? 2 against. That item is deferred to that committee meeting. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Liam. On to item 10.1.3, which does require an absolute majority, councillors. Councillor Kozisek.
And again, this particular policy was discussed at that same rushed council
Sorry,
meeting.
are you moving that we defer
I
this,
would like
councillor?
to move that we defer this back to the
Do I have a
policy.
seconder?
Thank
Councillor
you.
Giles. Now, Councillor Kozisek, you can...
Sorry. Yes, sorry. Again, it was a very rushed meeting and there was a lot to discuss and I don't think that we dealt with everything completely and properly at the time. We were missing Councillor Giles and I really think it needs to go back to that committee to be fully discussed. Thank you.
Sure. I'll put the motion to defer to the next Policy Review Committee. All those in favour, please indicate. Councillor Andrew?
No.
No? Okay, sorry, those in favour again. I just need to get a count there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And those against? That motion deferral is carried. (10.1.4) we're on to councillors, Coolanbiddy Woolley Building, and I'll ask our youth member, Michaela. Thank you, Michaela. You have 10 minutes.
And thank you for having me today. That's all right. So this particular proposal is for the building down at the Coolanbiddy Woolley. So YAC has engaged with a range of young people to develop this proposal, which included 1,200 young people over a period of 4 days when the skate park was actually first opened, through the City Boundary surveys. And then YAC, we actually spoke with a lot of different youth representative groups as well, so around another 50 young people, to come up with the recommendations within this proposal. So, so the building at Coolanbiddy Woolley has been constructed. Now it needs to be activated to the gate becoming an underutilised and inefficient infrastructure item. So what we're looking for within this meeting is actually for the recommendations within the proposal to be explored by the city, by the CEO, to look into the feasibility of that, or of our recommendations being implemented.
Thank you, Michaela. Thank you. Councillors, do I have a mover for this committee executive recommendation? Councillor Plum moving and Councillor Yip seconding. Is there likely to be any debate on this, councillors? There will be. Councillor Plum.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor, something reasonably straightforward. There may be questions around the details, but I think in essence it's great to see the Youth Committee taking the lead and coming up with this plan and idea, and we'll see how it slots in with the annual budget when we look further, the organisation looks further into how best to fit out that building for the youth for the city. But yeah, I would urge you all to support this and see what comes back to council. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Plum. Councillor Yip.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just an instruction to explore possibilities. The Youth Advisory Council have come up with those possibilities, and I think we owe it to them to look at what can be done down there. Whether that works out or not, I guess we'll wait and see. I guess that's what the recommendation is for. Thank you.
Councillor Yip. Councillor Steck. No, speaker against. Councillor Steck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It is not a local government responsibility to provide counselling services, and this goes down that path. It is also not local government responsibility to fund all of those sorts of activities that normally a state government would fund. into that building. It is also not local government's responsibility to fund putt-putts or the like. They should be a hire equipment. There are many, many other opportunities that we could coexist in that building. And if we are going to be serious, councillors, about getting funding, government is always saying that you need to have a co-purpose building, which means you need to have more than one purpose to guarantee funding. And why would we send a CEO to go down the path of something that local government doesn't do? And we know for a fact we have been told not to waste staff time, and yet here we are endorsing that we do when we know we don't even have the money. And I'm saying state government is not likely to fund something when we know that it's not a coexistent building. It's a one-purpose building.
Thank you, Councillor Steck. Is there a speaker for the recommendation?
Yes,
Councillor
Turner. Ideally, this proposal is exactly what's required in the Coolambitti Woola. We already activated the outdoor precinct, so why are we not activating the building? To have a mental health worker or a youth worker down there would be priceless. We've got a bit of a duty of care to look after these kids. We can't just place a precinct there and say go for it, free for all. We've got a duty of care for their safety and also to help them out with their mental health. They need a time out place where they can just chill out, so they can just, even if it's for 10 minutes, so they can build up their confidence to go back out again. But they've got a youth worker there that they can speak to. This will be priceless. This is exactly the sort of thing that we need in the centre of the CBD. Mental health is one of the most crucial things happening amongst our youth at the moment, and we're only asking for the CEO to investigate it. We're not saying it's going to be a budgetary item. Just let's go out and investigate it, and then we can look at sources of funding and possible sponsors down the road. We're not saying we're going to do it. We can even apply for state government funding, but we need the proposal there or something happening. You know, let's do better for our kids. Thank you. Please vote in favour.
And Councillor Turner, is there a speaker against? Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have great empathy, and I understand where they're coming from because I can see what's going on down there. But we can't go with cost shifting. We have to be very concerned. We've got headspace to be able to take these facilities in. There are many other organisations who would love a project like that, and they would help them with their funding if they were to do that. So I don't think that this is a responsibility of council, and I see that they would like to fit out the building with interior designer being consulted to design, purchasing, furnishings. We're having a hard time getting improvements at the dog exercise area. Sorry, I really understand and I empathise, but we have put something down there. If YAC would like to go and start fundraising themselves, I'll get right behind them. I'll be out there helping them. But quite frankly, this is extra, okay, on top of what we've already done, and we need to start saying no. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCreary. Further speaker for? Councillor Plum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, I'm always perplexed that there's any opposition to support the future for Bunbury, the residents that are going to grow up and own and buy and have families and everything in our city. And this is essentially a wish list. It's saying here's how this will work best for us. What do you think, Council, and to the staff, what do you think, Mr. CEO? And how best can we make this happen? Since I'm standing already, I'll share a quick story about my recently 7-year-old daughter. On Sunday decided to have a lemonade stand. They managed to purchase, they were going to take them for free, they managed to purchase lemons from one neighbour and leased a driveway, and again, I made them pay for the space, but there was more traffic, and they still netted $35 out of lemonade. Young people are very innovative. This is 7-year-olds, so I'm sure 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds will more than capable of coming up with a way of raising some revenue to cover these costs. That is what I would suggest, since the Youth Mayor is here today. That would be my suggestion, perhaps to look at how that room can be utilised to raise some coin towards this proposal. And I would also just comment just regarding the counselling or the services that are youth services delivered. I am more than sure that our staff would make sure that was only conducted by professionals or trained professionals. But having said that, this is one space in the health sector that is massively underserviced. There are just not enough professionals in the field, so everyone helps touching base with our young people. So, support the item. Thanks, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Plummer. I'll put the item as it reads. All those in favour, please indicate. Councillor Andrew.
Yes.
Those against? Eight against. That item is lost. Okay, all right. Councillors, we are moving to the 1032, sorry, Councillor Steele. Do I have somebody move this recommendation? I'll get you in a second, Councillor Steele. Do I have somebody move this recommendation? Councillor Steck, a seconder? Sure, I think there might be a couple of questions, Councillor Giles. Councillor Steele, do you have a question? Okay, Councillor Giles, do you have a question?
Thank you, I do. I'm not across the legislation for all of this, but are we sure that we are allowed to pay members superannuation, that it's a legal thing to do?
So that's what, yep. Councillor Giles, so the indication at the moment from the Minister's offices will be that they want to introduce superannuation for elected members, but he's indicated it will be optional for councillors to opt in to that option. So what WALGA are seeking is that it becomes compulsory for band 1 and 2 and optional for the other bands. But in terms of the legality of it, obviously the Minister suggested he wants it as an option, so legally it should be okay. But I might ask the CEO if he has any further indication on that.
There seems to be no further indication other than, as described in the item, there was an item carried at the WALGA annual general meeting, and therefore WALGA had asked local governments to consider this position and provide a response back to WALGA. So then the local government reform process will undertake its normal process through the government's processes.
Thinking about the laws around superannuation rather than WALGA's thoughts on this. So there's no law against paying superannuation on an allowance rather than a salary?
So, if I can, so my experience to date has been that local governments have not paid superannuation because the Local Government Act and its regulations are not specific around that matter. However, elected members are able to use some of their payments to make their own superannuation payments as a, you call it a salary sacrifice or a voluntary contribution. The Minister's reform process is talking about amending the legislation to enable the payment of superannuation to elected members.
All right, Counts.
That would be, then the city would have to do that on top of the allowance, is that correct? Then it wouldn't come out of our allowance. I just find this one very difficult to support.
Through you, Mr Mayor, at this stage the Salaries and Allowance Tribunal makes an annual determination on the range for elected member payments within the bands. If superannuation is then legislated, then the Salaries and Allowance Tribunal need to take account of that. At this stage, there isn't any clarity around anything else other than being paid in addition to sitting fees, not as part of existing sitting fees. But that is yet to be determined, and we don't have that information.
Councillor Steck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was present at the WALGA meeting, and there was a robust discussion between this. There was robust discussion from councillors that have been on council for a very lengthy period of time and councillors that have been on there for a short period of time. But however, there was consistency on message and that it was overwhelmingly supported. The Minister also says he overwhelmingly supports that, and he will in the future move to change legislation. Here we all have the draft policy and the proposal. All the documentation is in here, and currently there already exists a framework where local governments are being paid superannuation. The reason why I had supported it even at Walga was that Karen will probably tell you, when I started years and years ago, Councillor Steele, sorry, I correct you, sorry, sorry, I should use your title correct, thank you. When I started, I was a lot younger, lots of little kids, running a business, and I think I was paid like $600 through everything, juggling babysitting and everything else, and surely enough, something with all those plates in the air was going to, hit the fan. So, but when I started, it was a room full of old fellas, and I was probably the youngest woman in the room, and it was like that for a long, long time, and it was a hard, hard slog and a hard, hard road in a man's world. But look at this council today. Look at it, with all this women representation. How wonderful is that for me, coming from the dark ages? I kid you not. And what I can say is that I was fortunate because I could try and balance it because I lived in a smaller community. But what I'm trying to really get through is that when I started, there wasn't as much compliance. There wasn't any major learning. There wasn't major things that you had to deal with legally, financially. It was all sort of community-based effort. It wasn't what it is today. Today is module-based learning. Today is far more scrutinised. Today you are more likely to be in the soup than ever. So you have to have some form of superannuation that everyone else seems to have all those hours, because if you are using your sitting fee wisely, it really doesn't cover all of your expenses and your time. Because if you are, you may not think it, but jeepers, I think my phone runs hot most of the days, if not my emails certainly do. And I also can say that I probably spend $348 just on digital stuff. And maybe I'm doing far too costly things, but I can simply say, to keep up with compliance, to keep up with all of the legalities of things, there's a lot more study that I do afield, just so that I can be more learned in this space, even though I've learnt a lot in 17 years. So what I'm saying is that effort should be compensated, and Walga recognises that. The community of the elected members across the entire state recognise that, and so does the Minister. So either way, it's coming. So I'm saying to you, you should actually support and say to all those elected members in all the different districts across the state that you support them.
Councillor Kozisek.
Sorry. I would like to concur with Councillor Steck. As a female, having to leave paid employment to have children, again, we lose out on superannuation. Women in general are behind the 8 ball in superannuation if they are married with a family. I don't think anybody should be, in this day and age, should be behind because of any circumstances. We give up a lot of time to be councillors. Yes, we get an allowance fee, but it doesn't cover what we do. We give up paid work to be here. And we are here because we want to be here. We're here because we care. But I really think that value adding that little bit of superannuation in a time when the government is continually trying to move the goalposts, should I say, regarding pensions and when we can retire and what is suitable, I think everybody should be trying to optimise their superannuation, and I fully support this this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Costa. Is there a speaker against? Anything further, Councillor Steck?
No, sir, I think I've said it all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Councillor Andrew?
No.
Those against? 4 against. That's carried. 4 against. We had Councillor Yip, Councillor Turner, Councillor Steele and Councillor Andrew on the phone. We have an application of leave of absence for Councillor Andrew. Somebody happy to move that? Thank you, Councillor Giles. Moved Councillor Giles, seconded by Councillor Steck. All those in favour, please indicate. And Councillor Andrew?
Yeah.
That's approved. Councillors, we have the urgent business, which has come up, and apologies, it came late last night as a draft and then today. As we discussed, all those who were here last week, we did discuss this item that needed to be dealt with, and we needing a response. I'll just ask the CEO if there's anything further to add on that. And first we actually have to move that we deal with this, as a late item, as an urgent item. Somebody have to move that? Councillor McCleary, Councillor Giles. And just, Councillor Andrew, for your record, we're just moving that we accept this late item as an urgent item.
Yeah.
All those in favour? Councillor Andrew?
Yeah.
That's carried, thank you. So I should have done that first, councillors. So we're now dealing with this item. Given it's come up quite late there, I'm happy to, before we ask for remover, I am happy to take any questions if need be first, given it's come late today. Councillor Steele.
I've got a query. Number 3, I think is reading incorrect, because when I was reading, it should actually be 13 to 9, because it should include the mayor as a councillor, because he is included as a councillor, and that actually, when I was reading the actual...
Yes, your CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. So, on the transitional arrangements, all elected members would complete their terms, so the mayor would complete his sitting term. So the transitional arrangements will only affect councillor roles, because the City of Bunbury already has a properly elected mayor.
But when I was reading actually the local government thing prior to coming in this evening, it actually did say 9 including the mayor, and I think that should reflect what is actually on the local. And I'll find it right now if you like, but it should actually read that, because the mayor is actually counted as a councillor.
So the mayor is an elected member, but not a councillor. So mayor is elected as the mayor, and there are a popular elected mayor and 12 councillors make up the City of Bunbury Council. We could happy to amend that part 3.
It's only because I was on the.
Councillor Steele, I think the CEO might have a explanation for you though.
If I can, happy to suggest we could amend part 3 to support the transitional reduction in elected members from 13 to 9, because the title of councillor does not relate to a popularly elected mayor. If the mayor was elected from within the councillors, then they would also carry the term councillor. That's my understanding. But in terms of addressing Councillor Steele's question, we could look at adjusting number 3 under the executive recommendation to support the transitional reduction in elected member numbers from 13 to 9 over the next 2 ordinary...
I think elected members is the correct term there, minute taker. And not jumping in, but that may be on the fact when you do have the current situation, let's say Busselton, where they obviously have their councillors elected, and one of them is then elected from mayor from those elected members, though Councillor Steele. So that probably is the difference, is that we have a popular elected mayor as compared to a mayor's. I
was also on the phone, we were on the phone to Minister Carey's office prior to coming in today, and it just actually says on here, 9 councillors including the mayor and president. It just actually says that, doesn't actually say anything about it being a populated mayor or anything like that.
Well, are you happy with the adjustment here? our minute takers having a bit of fun with. Well, sure. Councillor Steele, do you just want to maybe pass that to the CEO, and I'll just ask Councillor Quain, do you have a question?
Yes, Mr Mayor, could we please have a bit more clarity on that, because I don't want to open
Sure.
interpretation. I would prefer it actually stated Mayor in that explanation.
Sure, Councillor Quain. We'll just let the CEO have a look at this one. Sorry, Your Honour. How are we going there? How's that reading?
So not yet. So if we're going to want to add the mayor in, it'll be 13, which is 12 councillors and the mayor.
CEO, do you want to go over there and have a crack? Councillor McCleary.
Could we perhaps just add a number 6 that notes that the mayor will be...
Councillor Quain, can you please just flick your mic off there? It might be yours, I think. Thank you.
Could we perhaps just add a number 6 to say and the properly elected mayor will serve fully elected in 2025?
I'm not sure that's necessary, Councillor McCleary. Thank you for your efforts, but let's just have a look at what the CEO and minute taker may come up with here. And again, apologies for this being late, but as the dates are being given to us, we need to have a response on this. And again, notwithstanding that this isn't the final position of council, as it's mentioned in there, this then has to go out for advertising, which will come back to council, which will then be given a final position to send to the advisory committee that the minister has set up. So we can clarify those points in the interim, Councillor Steele, to make sure the wording is exactly right as well. How do you feel about that, Councillor Steele?
Thank you, but you know what I think about reducing numbers.
I do, and this council's made the decision on that previously, but here we are. Is there any further questions on this before I ask for a mover? Yes, sorry, CEO.
If I can, Mr Mayor, we've had very limited time to discuss this, and I have taken the liberty of putting the maximum number of elected members in as the recommendation allowable under the local government reform process. So I'm not sure, we have provided the options in this document, but given the brief conversations we've had, and I know it hasn't been any formal setting, the message I took away was that the maximum was the minimum, and that the elected members I spoke to weren't prepared to go, well, the majority of elected members I spoke to weren't prepared to go lower than the 9. So I have taken some liberty in doing that, and we had thought about putting the recommendation up with a blank number and just allowing council to make that decision, but I needed to prepare the paper, which is attached to this document, for public comment, and then also have taken the liberty of putting the recommendation, if it is accepted tonight, as the executive recommendation. So we'll have a little bit of modification to do in this document to make sure that the wording of the resolution, if it is passed tonight, is consistent with the document.
Thanks, CEO. As you said, we need to start somewhere, so we have something on there. So as you know, there are 27 different options we could take. So if somebody has a different idea they would like to, then you can obviously speak against this and raise this. I think Councillor Smith had a question first.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wondered if these recommendations are going to be put separately, because I would symbolically like to vote against number 3, because I don't believe in the reduction of councillors at all. Thank you.
We can put them separately, Councillor Smith, and just letting you know, though, if we don't have a position for the ministry, for the minister, they will make their own decision.
I understand that, Mr Mayor.
Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to reread number 3.
Yep.
Aloud. May I do that, please?
I can read it for you if you'd like.
Yes, please. That would be good.
Support the transitional, and this is probably for Councillor Andrew as well, Councillor Andrew. So point 3 now reads, supports the transitional reduction in elected members number from 13, 12 councillors plus a properly elected mayor, to 9, 8 councillors plus a properly elected mayor, over the next 2 ordinary local government elections being October 2023 and October 2025. Sure.
Another question.
Yes.
Why did it change from elected members from councillors? Why have we just done that? Because even on I know it's quite pedantic, but to me, I'm a councillor. I'm not an elected member.
I think you're both, Councillor Steck.
Yeah, but I just wonder why it just changed.
Steele, not Steck.
Councillor Steele, sorry. Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Gassam. As I said, we can work the correct wording when we get the response for the advisory committee. Councillor Gassam.
Just on item 3, Mr Mayor, I have read the full report and actually it reads very well, so congratulations to whoever read it under pressure. The transition, is that we've taken it for granted that the elected members or councillors and the mayor will see their position through, their term through in this transitional period. So if you were elected 2 years ago, you'll see your 4 years through, etc.
That's what
Is that the intention?
That's the intent of this. If
Yeah.
that's yes, that.
Yeah. I just wanted to make that clear.
Sorry,
it does
sorry.
say it in the report.
Yep.
I just want to make that clear.
Sure. The CEO did just ask if you wanted to explain how that process would work, and I said no, but I'll ask him to explain it now because the question's been asked. So CEO, the process.
Look, thank you, Mr Mayor, and Councillor Gassam. One of the principles we took into this conversation was to enable all elected members to complete their term of office that they've been elected to. The transitionary arrangements in practical terms would then mean at the 2023 election, there is no properly elected mayor, so there's no mayoral election. Rather than 6 vacancies, there would only be 4 vacancies of councillor positions. And then in 2025, there'll be a properly elected mayor's election and 4 councillor positions rather than the 6 that we currently have.
Councillor Quain.
Mr Mayor, me personally, I would like to see that explained in this recommendation so there's no doubt.
It is in the report, Councillor Quain.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Steck. Please stand, Councillor Steck. We're still in the
Thank
formal
you.
setting, sorry.
Just when we take these, are we going to take a mover and a seconder for each of them?
We can do it, yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I'll probably leave my comment from what the Minister said for point 3, sir.
Yeah. In answer to your question, Councillor Quain, it is covered. So it's covered in the report. CEO, do you have any further comment on that?
Could you not just add, like, reducing to October 23 and further to in October 25 so it is actually in the motion? Because sometimes things are in reports and...
How about when we get to item 3, we'll deal with that item 3. Yes, Councillor Plum.
Mr Mayor, not sure if there's a point of order. Can we table this? Can we?
Yeah, look,
table then?
I've been relaxed because of the fact it's a new item, so I have been relaxed. So let's deal with item 1 first, and when we get to item 3, we might be able to muck around with that. So somebody happy to move item 1 and a seconder? Councillor Plum move, Councillor Giles second.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move all 5 if you want to do that.
Is there anyone prepared to second all 5? Councillor Giles? Yep, sure. Okay. That makes it probably a fair bit easier. Thank you, Councillor Plum. We will deal with each item because there's probably going to be debate on at least one item. So dealing with item 1, and just Councillor Andrew for your clarity, we're currently dealing with these items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Before I do ask for the vote, we'll just make, there is no further questions. Understand where we're at with that. We'll be dealing with item 1 first then. So those in favour of item 1, please indicate. Councillor Andrew?
Yeah.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Sorry. Those against? Sorry, Councillor Yip. 1 against. Item 2, councillors, note the discussion paper. So all those in favour, please indicate. Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
That is carried unanimously, that one. So item 3, we have a mover and second there. The only problem is that we've been slightly moved. So we will just deal with the initial, I did ask for a mover and a seconder as it read, minute taker. So I know you've mucked around with that now. If the mover and seconder are happy with that note, I'm happy to take that. Councillor Plum, Councillor Giles, when we gets finished.
Say, as Councillor Gassab asked, that elected members will fill their entire, you could choose 4 or 6 who are going to be up for election. I think that was your point. What you need to say is that the elected members will complete their full term, because that is not clear as to which members will be up for the election. I know it's pedantic, but that's what the point was.
Sure, can't see you.
I'm just trying to understand why elected member won't complete their term under this, because
you might pick 6, you might say all these people on the side.
It's not possible to do that, but yeah, I understand, and look, we're happy to get this right. How are we going with that, Councillor Giles? And Councillor Plummer's mover happy? Right. Is there going to be any debate on this one, councillors?
Can I just make a point, sir, that that's not what the minister said? Just put the motion.
Okay. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please indicate. Those against? Sorry, Councillor Andrew, didn't ask for your vote.
Yes.
Thank you. That is carried. Item 4. I'll put item 4. All those in favour, please indicate. Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Oh. I've put it. Sorry, Councillor Steele.
I was standing already.
Sorry, Councillor Steele. I've put the motion. All those in favour? Yeah, sure. Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
Those against? Councillor Steele? I'm sorry. I was more at myself for not being quick enough. Sorry, Councillor Steele. Okay, I'll answer it afterwards. To the members of the public and media, we do have a confidential item to deal with. I'll just ask that we move behind closed doors to deal with that item. Somebody happy to move that? Councillor Giles? Councillor Smith? All those in favour? Councillor Andrew?
Yes.
Thank you, and we'll read the resolution at the completion. Thank you, members of the public and media. Item 15.1.1, moved by Councillor Plum and seconded by Councillor Giles, and carried 12 votes to 1. That Council, point 1, in accordance with section 3.58 of the Local Government Act 1995, authorise the CEO to enter into a sale and development agreement based on the information contained within the confidential report. And 2, approves the project subdivision and disposal portion lot 3 Blair Street and associated budget. And point 3, agrees that the proceeds from the sale of the land currently used for parking be committed to the parking reserve to facilitate future CBD parking requirements. And 4, request the CEO to present options for consideration in the 23-24 budget for the replacement of public parking bays that may be lost as a result of this development. As mentioned, that was carried 12 votes to 1. Thank you, councillors. I'll declare this meeting closed. We'll see you next door. Thanks, Councillor Andrew.